Hey guys, this is Luis. In this video, we're going to be talking about some of the prereqs that are necessary for installing the SQL Server and the SCCM. As you know, if you're following the series, we already have basically this setup already in place. We have our NAT with our two NICs, one to the external network, one to the internal network. We have our DC running DNS also, or already created the domain ira.com, and we also created this machine, but we haven't done anything other than join this computer to the domain. We haven't done anything to it. Now, in order to configure the SCCM and the SQL Server, there's a bunch of prereqs that we had to install beforehand before we are even able to configure anything. And I'm gonna put this list of prerequisites in the description of the video. This is what we're gonna be working with today. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. As you can see, and I already talked a little bit about this before, the remote desktop connection manager. I have my three computers over here already connected. I have my DC, I have my NET, and I have my SCCM. Most of these prereqs are going to be taking place on the SCCM itself machine. Some of these prereqs are going to be taking place on the uh, domain controller. Another things that we had to do before even starting the installation of the prereqs is that you're gonna have to compile a list of ISOs. The ISOs are the installable, the package with the installations. You're gonna have a different ISO for every single item over here. Uh, ADK for Windows 10. This is a folder that we're gonna use a little bit later. Uh, SQL Server. We're gonna have the SCCM installer, which is SCCM 1511. That's the latest version. The ISO for Windows 10 Enterprise Evaluation, and the ISO for Windows 2016, Windows Server 2016. All of those ISOs, you're gonna have to have them beforehand. In my case, I created this ISO. This super huge ISO is 15.4 gigabytes, but this ISO is just a compilation of all my others. This ISO, if we open it, I created this ISO just for my purposes, um, for the easiness of the video. You again gonna have you're gonna have an ISO of every single one of these items, but me uh, thinking proactively, I created an ISO with all of this. Um, the first thing that we're gonna go do is, in my case, I'm gonna go ahead to the virtual machine manager. Since I cannot do this in the remote desktop manager, I'm gonna go and insert that ISO into these two machines, into the DC and into the SCCM, which are the two computers that we're gonna be working with. For that, we go to the settings of the machines. We're gonna SCSI controller, and we're gonna add a DVD drive. Once you click the add, we're gonna select an ISO, which in my case is somewhere here. My ISO is right over here. I'm gonna copy this pad just to make it easy. Once that is inserted into that machine, the machine is gonna recognize that ISO as a CD or a DVD drive. The same thing for the SCCM. We're gonna go to image and we are going to paste this, and that should take care of it. If we go to the machines itself over here, if we go to the DC for example, we go to this PC and then we have the DVD drive over here. Same thing on the SCCM machine. If we browse the Explorer, File Explorer, you're gonna see also the DVD drive over here. All right. Once that's in place, it's time to start with the prereqs. All right. The first thing that it says, the bold letters are gonna be steps that we're gonna have to take. The italic letters are the descriptions or the role or the features that we're gonna have to install. The first step is to make a container. The SCCM is gonna be talking to the DC, and everything's gonna be or everything whatever the SCCM is doing is going to be dumping it into a container, and for that we need a container that's specifically designed or specifically named for the DC. uh, I do not come up with his name with the name. I didn't come up with the name. The name has to be exactly as is going to be shown here, and for that we are gonna take some steps. All right, so open the server manager and we're gonna go to ADSI edit. ADSI edit is, as some people say it, is a user and computers button crack. You're gonna see some options here that you're not gonna see usually on the user and computer. So ADSI edit, it's very dangerous to use. So make sure that you are following the video or that you know what you're doing, because whatever you change here is going to take effect all over the system, all over the entire domain, all right? So we're going to go ahead, right click, and we're going to connect to the default. We're just going to leave everything default because we just have one domain controller. We're going to expand all of this and we're going to go to CN system. Once we get here, we're going to right click CN system and we're going to create a new object. In this list of object, we're going to create a container. Container, we're going to go through the wizard, and this is the name that it has to be specifically as it appears here. It has to have the same capital letters, you have to have the same space, so make sure you type this correctly. It's called system space capital M management. Okay, system management. We're going to continue. Don't worry about the attributes. We're gonna go back there. All right. Once that container is created, we're gonna see it right over here, but we are not gonna use it just yet. All right. So we're gonna close this out. We're gonna go back to Tools, Active Directory, Users and Computers. Again, in the Active Directory of Users and Computers, there's a lot of options that we cannot see by default. Like for example, if we expand here, that's basically what we have. We have computers, I mean controllers and users. But if we go over here to view and we click on advanced features, we're gonna expand this again and you're gonna see a couple of other containers and a couple of other organizational units and everything. So we're gonna go browse to the system and we're gonna go browse to the system management, which is the container that we just created. Right click, delegate control. We're gonna go through the wizard. We're gonna click next and we're gonna add somebody over here to have delegation of this container. In this case, it's not gonna be somebody, so it's gonna be, we're gonna change the object and it's gonna be a computer. The computer is gonna be connecting and controlling this container. And the computer is called SCCM, right? All right, once we do this, we're gonna click next. We're gonna create a custom task. We're gonna click next. And in the next step, we're gonna give them full control to this computer. The SCCM is gonna have full control over the system management container. Once that is done, that takes care of the first step, which is creating and adding the necessary attributes to the container. SCCM admin user. This admin user for the SCCM is gonna be the one practically controlling the SCCM. we're gonna go, since we are already here in the users and computer, we're gonna create a new user. We're gonna create new user. We're gonna call it SCCM, last name admin, login name SCCM admin. I'm gonna click next. Whatever password you decide, just make sure you never forget this. And I believe that didn't type right, so we're not gonna change a login. We cannot change password, and password never expire. I'm gonna click next and finish. Okay, that takes care of the SCCM admin user. Alright, now the schema, we're gonna have to extend the schema also on our DC. We can close this out. Remember when I told you that you're gonna have to inject every single ISO independently? In my case, like I mentioned before, I created my ISO and I added all of the folders and all of the ISOs that I'm gonna need throughout the series. I have them in this ISO. So the first ISO that you should be inserting into your DC is the SCCM 1511. Once we get over here, we're gonna go to SMS setup, bin, and it's 64. Again, this is the easiest way that I find how to do this. Just browse to this folder, and inside the folder, you're gonna hold the shift key and you're gonna right click over here. Once in here, you're gonna see the different options that you have for this folder. And in this folder, you're gonna open a command window here. You're gonna see that you're already over here. SCCM 1511, SSMS setup, bin at64, and whatever the name is. Over here, and for some reason, this is not the folder that I need to use. I was selecting this folder without selecting any folder. Without selecting any folder, make sure you are not selecting a folder. Click outside to deselect. So you're gonna hold shift, right click, and open a command here. Alright, SCCM 1511, SMS setups, being at 64. Once in here, EXT, and then hit the tab key. It's gonna auto complete the extend active directory schema application. And once there, you're just gonna click tab, and that should take care of it. Successfully extended the active directory schema. Alright, continuing with the prereqs, we're gonna work with the Firewall Gpo. Okay, in order for the SCCM to connect to the different computers, there's some rules, some ports that needs to be open to every single computer in the domain. And for that, we're gonna create a GPO. The GPO is gonna create those rules, and it's gonna replicate over the computer. So every computer is gonna have the same set of values. Crude policy management. We can close this out again. We're gonna expand this, and I really hope you know how to create a GPO by this point. We're gonna create domains. We're gonna expand to group policy objects. There's different ways to create a policy object. In my situation, I'm just gonna create. Again, there's multiple ways to create a GPO. This is my preferred type, my preferred way, so I'm just gonna go ahead. There's a lot of documentation on what all these ports are, and all the definition and the explanation of all the prereqs. I'm not gonna get into details. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you how to do it. If you do this want to uh, verify the purposes of it, then you can actually Google it because, like I said, I'm not gonna get into it, into the details. Alright, we're gonna create a GPO. In my case, I'm just gonna call it SCCM Firewall Rule. I'm gonna click OK, and we are gonna edit it. I'm gonna expand this. Over here on Windows configurations, we're gonna go to Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Windows Firewall, Windows Firewall with advanced features. We're gonna click Expanding, and here we are. First one that we're gonna create an outbound rule. We're gonna right click and we're gonna create a rule. Uh, we're gonna get a predefined set of rules. It's called the file and printer sharing right over here. I'm gonna click next. You see all these ports and all these rules are gonna be enabled. We're gonna open them. I'm gonna click next. Instead of blocking the connection, we're gonna allow the connection. All right, that takes care of that. Now, for the inbound rules, there's actually three of them. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna create new, predefine, file and printer sharing. Same thing. Create next, next. We're gonna allow the connection, and that takes it over there. We're gonna do the same thing. Another predefine, and it's called the Windows Management Instrumentation, WMI. By the same token, next, allow the connection, and done. Now the last two, oh, by the way, I'm skipping this part, but you can see the actual the actual settings: Windows settings, security settings, Windows Firewall, file and printer sharing, inbound and outbound, Windows Management Instrumentation in, and now we're gonna do the ports 1433 and 4022 TCP inbound. All right, I'm gonna go to my DC inbound, new rule. We're gonna create ports TCP. We're gonna specify the ports, which are 1433 and 4022. Let me double check on that. 1433 and 4022 TCP in. All right, we're gonna click next. We're gonna allow the connection again for all three setups. Let's just give it a name, SCCM ports, for the lack of a better name. Gonna click next. Once that's in place, that takes care of the GPO, Firewall GPO. So far, we're doing great. We're doing great time also. Before we continue, do not forget to link this GPO to the domain, because even if we create the GPO without linking it to the domain, it's not gonna do anything. All right, SCCM Firewall rules, and that should take care of it. It's gonna replicate again throughout the entire domain. We could force it to replicate and open it automatically at this time, but since there's a couple of steps that we still need to take, we can wait for the replication to go through. So don't worry about it. All right, let's see what the next step is. Okay, up until this moment, we have been working on the DC. All of these steps has been taking place on the DC. Now, this part over here is gonna be taking part. Is gonna be taking part. Is gonna be taking place on the SCCM machine. All right. So let's go over there and let's head to our SCCM machine. We're gonna close this out for a second, even though I know I'm gonna need it in a minute. And we're gonna open the server manager. Honestly, I don't know why I closed that window because I'm gonna need it. In this machine, before we continue, make sure you insert the Windows Server 2016 ISO. Windows Server 2016 ISO. For by experience, I'm gonna tell you it's just easier to insert the ISO and browse to this path. The easier way, just to browse to this path and then copy the entire path. Windows, ISO, whatever you guys call it, sources, S, and you're gonna see why in a second. A minute. In a minute. Okay. Alright. Let's install the prereqs. As you can see, there's a lot of prereqs to install. We're gonna go through every single one of them, alright? So not to worry. We're gonna go to manage. It should let us, even though it's still loading. We're gonna click next and let me expand this so we have a better view. Role base, SCCM machine, and this is not good. Why is it okay? Not to worry. Let's just restart this machine since it's telling me that it needs a restart. Let me restart this machine. I'm gonna pause the video for a second and then I will be right back. And we are back. And just to please the curiosity of those of you who were asking yourself what was that restart about, and like I mentioned before, we are running Windows 2016 Technical Preview 4. What it means is that Windows is pushing updates at all times to work around the different issues that they've been finding, and those updates require me to restart the machine every once in a while. So again, nothing to be concerned of. This is a technical preview. All of those issues should be addressed by the time the actual release of Windows Server 2016 is available, right? So let's go back over here. We're gonna click next. We're gonna install it the SCCM, and let's go back over here to the prereqs. Add roles and features. We're gonna add the role of web server IIS. Web server IIS is right over here. We're gonna select it with all its dependencies. We're gonna continue. Now over here we got some features. Net.3.5, Net.4.5 bits, and remote differential compression. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do that. As you can see over here, Net 4.5 or Net 4.6 in this case, it's already installed. We're gonna go ahead and install Net 3.5. Net 4.6, it's already installed. We're gonna be installing B.I.T.S. B.I.T.S right over here with all its dependencies. Background intelligent transfer servers. B.I.T.S background intelligent transfer servers. And the remote differential compression, which is right over here. Again, I'm not gonna go through the different to the purposes of these prereqs. They are absolutely necessary to be installed, but the actual necessity. They can be found on the internet on different websites. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna put a link to a page that it helped me a lot through the installation of the SCCM, so you can actually read about it. All right, but for now, we're gonna go ahead and continue. We're gonna click next. Web server role IIS is just a preview page, and in the server role services, we're gonna see where's web server roles. We're gonna scroll to all of this, right? We're gonna go through every single one of them. Common HTTP features. We have it right over here, common HTTP features. Just so you know, some of these are gonna be installed by default. We're gonna already have them, so you might not need to check one or two of this, but just make sure that every single one is checked by the time you click next over here, right? Common HTTP features, the ones are default document and a static document, all right? And just to prove you, we're gonna have combination of the default document and a static content. Sorry. Security, Windows Authentication. We are done with common HTTP features. We don't have anything on health. Performance, we don't have anything there. Security, we had to install Windows Authentication. Windows Authentication is selected. Application development, we're gonna expand this. Now, application development. ASP.NET 3.5, Extensibility 3.5, 4.5, ISAPI extension. Okay, it's telling us we need to install Net Extensibility 3.5, Net Extensibility 4.6, but and also this. Now look at this. If we click over here, it's gonna ask us to add the feature, and then we're gonna have to click over here independently. But if we click over here, it has the requirements over here. All right. So just go ahead and click ASP.NET 3.5, ASP.NET 4.6 in this case. And that should take care of the ASP.NET 3.5, ASP 4.5, and the extensibility. Now, ISAPI extensions. ISAPI extension is already here, so that should take care of the application development. There's nothing on the FTP server. Management tools, we're gonna expand this, and I'm gonna tell you right. Okay, let me go back over here and let's show you. All of these are gonna be the ones that are gonna be selecting, which are management console, scripting tool, scripting tools, and the IIS management scripting tool. All right, that should take care of the prereqs. As you can see, that should take care of every single prereq that we have over here. We're gonna go ahead and install it. Now, before we get to install, you see that you have the availability to install it, but look at the top over here. It's asking us if we need to specify a path for the installation of the 3.5. It's not being specific, but this is what it is. The installation of the 3.5 is not online. It comes it comes on this Windows Server CD, and for that, wrong button. For that, we need to specify the path to the folder that we just talked about it on the Windows Server CD. If you see over here, the sources for the Net 3.5, this is a lot more specific, are not installed as a part of the typical installation, but are available on this side-by-side store on the CD of the Windows Server, which is, if you can see here, E as the drive letter or your ISO sources, SSS. I already copied this from my folder, as you can see over here. In my case, is the name of the ISO sources SNS. All right. So we're gonna click OK. And after we do this, then we're gonna go ahead and click install. Now, this is gonna take a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. So I'm just gonna pause this for a second and come back to you. And we are back. As you can see, the installation of all these features has succeeded on the SCCM. Once this is done, you can read about it, but you might just well go ahead and click OK and close. Once this is done, does it mean that we're ready to install the SCCM? Nah, not yet. We just went through the prereqs of installing the SCCM. This is gonna be a little bit, it gets a little bit better on the next video, okay? So stick around and hope you guys have enjoyed the video.